all four of us, as a way of defeating our embarrassment. There was one thing only on our minds, one subject we were all burning to talk of. And though Bill had alluded to it, we weren't quite comfortable with it yet. We were silent a moment, studying the faces of the people shuffling damply through the door. "I like your ring, Sally," Laura said finally. "Was it terribly expensive?" And then they were both giggling, and Bill and I were laughing along with them, laughing immoderately, laughing for the sheer joy and release of it. I could feel the bourbon settling in my stomach and sending out feelers to the distant tendrils of my nerves, and my face shone and so did theirs. We were in on a secret together, the four of us. We'd put one over on Dean Honig, and we'd just gone through a rite of initiation in a darkened hall in the biology building. It took a minute. Bill lit a cigarette. The girls searched each other's eyes. "Geez," Bill said finally, "did you ever in your life see anything like that?" "I thought I was going to die," Sally said. She threw a glance at me, then studied the pattern of wet rings her beer glass had made on the table. "If my mother," she began, but couldn't finish the thought. "God," Laura snorted, making a long, drawn-out bleat of it. "My mother would have gone through the roof." She lit a cigarette too, and it smoldered now in the ashtray, the white of the paper flecked red from the touch of her lips. She picked it up distractedly, took a quick puff, exhaled. "Because we never, in my family, we never discussed, where little boys and girls come from." Sally raised a confidential hand to her mouth. "They call him Dr. Sex. Did you know that?" "Who does?" I felt as if I were floating above the table, all my tethers cut and the ground fading fast below me. This was heady stuff, naughty, wicked, like when a child first learns the verboten words Dr. Kinsey had pronounced so distinctly and disinterestedly for us just an hour before. Sally raised her eyebrows till they met the brim of her hat. "People around campus. Not to mention town," Bill put in. He dropped his voice. "He makes you do interviews, about your sex life," he laughed, "or lack of it." "Oh, I would hate that," Sally said. "It's so personal, and it's not as if he's a medical doctor or a minister even." I felt overheated suddenly, though the place was as dank as the dripping alley out back. "Histories," I said, surprising myself. "Case histories. He's explained all that. How else are we going to know what people," "The human animal, you mean," Laura said. What people do when they mate, if we don't look at it scientifically. And frankly, I don't know about you, but I applaud what Kinsey's doing. And if it's shocking, I think we should ask ourselves why, because isn't a function as universal as reproductive behavior just as logical a cause for study as the circulation of the blood, or the way the cornea works, or any other medical knowledge we've accumulated over the centuries? It might have been the bourbon talking, but there I was defending Proc before I ever even knew him. "Yes, but," Bill said, and we all leaned into the table and talked till our glasses were empty. And then we filled and emptied them again, the rain tracing patterns in the dirt of the window, then the window going dark and the tide of undergraduates ebbing and flowing as people went home to dinner and their books. It was 7 o'clock. I was out of money. My head throbbed, but I'd never been so excited in my life. When Bill and Sally excused themselves and shrugged out the door and into the wafting dampness of the night, I lingered a moment, half drunk, and put an arm round Laura's shoulders. "So, we're still engaged, aren't we?" Her smile spread softly from her lips to her eyes. She plucked the maraschino cherry from her glass and rotated it between her fingers before gently pressing it into my mouth. "Sure," she said. "Then shouldn't we, or don't we have an obligation to... "Sure," she said. And she leaned forward and gave me a kiss that was sweetened by the syrup of the cherry and the smell of her perfume and the proximity of her body that was warm and languid. It was a long kiss, the longest I'd ever experienced, and it was deepened and complicated by what we'd seen up there on the screen in the lecture hall, by the visual memory of those corresponding organs designed for sensory gratification and the reproduction of the species, mutually receptive, self-lubricated, and natural. I came up for air and courage, emboldened, and though there was nothing between us and we both knew it, I whispered, "Come home with me." The look of Laura's face transformed suddenly. Her eyes sharpened and their features came into focus as if I'd never really seen them before, as if this wasn't the girl I'd just kissed in a moment of sweet oblivion. We were both absolutely still, our breath commingling, hands poised at the edge of the table as if we didn't know what to do with them. Till she turned away from me and began to gather up her purse, her raincoat, her hat. I became aware of the voices at the bar then, someone singing in a creaking baritone, the hiss of a newly tapped keg. "I don't know what you're thinking, John," she said, and I was getting to my feet now too, rattled suddenly, flushing red for all I knew. "I'm not that kind of a girl."